Hello everybody, Fortefyre here. Welcome to episode 3 of Fortefyre's Fyreside Chats. Today we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. I knew this day was going to come. Anyway, growing up, we were no strangers to heavy-hitting titles. For example, if I went to school, I knew I could always talk about Street Fighter, Mega Man, Mortal Kombat, Mario, Donkey Kong, etc. Sonic the Hedgehog was kind of like a weird series that interjected its way into my life. Growing up, my dad had a Sega Genesis. If the game started coming out in 91, I wouldn't have been born yet. I was born in 92. So that being said, it was probably 1, 2, or 3. However, ironically, he threw it away because he was afraid that we were going to get addicted to video games. Or maybe I had already started showing signs of being addicted to video games. That worked out well, didn't it? Fast forward to whenever I'm maybe 11 or 12. The Scholastic Book Fair comes to town, and in the last page of the Scholastic Book Fair catalog, there are software and video games, more specifically computer games. And one of these was Sonic CD. Now Sonic CD is, if I remember right, considered to be one of the greatest selling Sonic games of its time. It came out on the Sega CD, which is obscure as hell. I don't know anybody who has one, except for me. I have two. One of them doesn't work. And I remember popping this bad bitch into my gateway computer, making it to level 4, and then the game crashes. And then my computer crashes. And that was it for Sonic CD. Move that fast forward die a little bit further, and I got Sonic & Knuckles 3 from Sam's Club, and that was awesome. I played that on my computer a lot. I never beat it, but I still had it. And then fast forward much further to whenever I'm in college and practically an adult, and I bought the Sega Mega Collection Plus, which has almost all of the Sonic games plus some of the spin-offs. But let's go back to 1991 and see what Sega had up their sleeves. So, in 1991, the Super Nintendo was pretty much leading the industry in terms of 16-bit gaming. But Sega wasn't about that life. Sega wanted to throw a wrench in the equation. And how are they going to do that? By talking mad shit. There's 3 instances of companies talking mad shit that I can think of off the top of my head. The first was Neo Geo, who came out with these ads that said, you need a pair of these, and these were steel balls, to play this. The problem is, nobody could afford it. So, meh. The second was John Romero whenever he was making Daikatana. The advertisement literally said, John Romero's about to make you his bitch. However, the game failed miserably, and he made nobody his bitch. He played himself. And the third was the Sega Genesis, which had major beef with Nintendo. Every commercial that came out usually involved Sega just shitting on the Super Nintendo. Their biggest slogan that I can remember from reading books and looking at like old commercials was, Genesis does what Nintendo don't. So in order to support all this mad shit that they were talking, they needed to have a mascot or a property that would do well on the system. You can't have an amazing system and then just trash games expected to take off. Sega did this by replacing their long-standing mascot Alex Kidd with a blue-haired hedgehog that could run really fast. And that effectively put Sega on the map. Because sure, the SG-1000 was popular in Japan, and the Sega Master System had a really good run too. But the Sega Genesis featuring Sonic, that's what put Sega on the map. But enough babbling by me. Let's go ahead and take a look at the game. Alright, so here's my copy of Sonic the Hedgehog. We actually have a box copy for one, so that's cool. I got a lot that I want to say about the box itself, especially the stuff back here, but let's go ahead and start by looking at the cart. So I got my copy of Sonic the Hedgehog for $44 frickin' at a store in Lexington, Kentucky I'd rather not talk about because I'm not big fans of them. Alright, so the logo matches this, or the artwork stays the same. It's stupid for companies to change the artwork on the actual cart when they can just copy and paste. That's fine. I'm not going to complain about that. But the one thing I do want to point out is not for resale. A lot of people ask me, as a video game collector, does this mean that my game is rare? And the answer is no. This particular not for resale would have been part of a bundle deal. And this was Sega's way of saying, hey, don't break up the game from the console and sell it apart to make an extra few dollars. Alright, and I'll point out that grid. That grid's something important too. Alright, well that's about it for that. So let's look at this case. The grid. This is cool in its own little Easter eggish sort of way. So this grid's black, but the system that predated the Genesis, the Sega Master System, actually had a white grid. So it's like, oh, that's a cool little homage, I guess. You know what I mean? Anyway, so this is, I think it's Green Hill Zone. I gotta go back and play the game again. It's been a while.
But that's the starter level, and it's really cool that that matches. Sonic looks kind of squatty, but he ends up developing better as they started making more games, and they made them often. Very simple logo, can't complain about that. Very simple Genesis logo too, can't complain about that either. But this is the bullshit back here. So as you can see, I'm gonna go and zoom in a little bit. It says Super Speed, bust the video game speed barrier wide open with Sonic the Hedgehog trademark. Blaze by in a blur using the supersonic spin attack, loop the loop by defying gravity, plummet down tunnels, then dash to safety with Sonic's power sneakers, all at a frenzied pace. Well, that's bullshit. First and foremost, the only controls that you have that would make you do a spin is by pressing down. When you think of the supersonic spin attack, you think of like Sonic 2 Forward, where you could just hold down and spam the buttons and you speed up. That's very misleading. Super graphics help Sonic escape bubbling molten lava, swim through turbulent waterfalls, scale glistening green mountains, and soar past shimmering city lights. Joke's on you, I actually had to retake this because I said simmering shitty lights. There's even a 360 rotating maze. You've never seen anything like it. Yeah, that's the special level. Unless you can get an abhorrent amount of rings and manage to keep them through all the bullshit they throw you, then you'll go to a 360 rotating maze. Super attitude. Sonic has an attitude that just won't quit. He's flippin' funny. Flip. Whatever. Sonic has an attitude that just won't quit. He's flippin' funny, yet tough as nails as he fights to free his friends from evil. So just wait, Sonic may be the world's next superhero. That's not a superhero, that's just a character. Alright, I think I've dissected this enough. I really wish I had a manual. The Sonic manuals, well, most of the game manuals in this generation were pretty awesome. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the game.
Are you ready for the premise of this game? Sonic's going to save his furry little friends from Dr. Robotnik, who's turning him into robots. Give me millions of dollars. That's what Sega said. But the storyline worked. I can't knock that, because it's an easy concept, it's an easy platformer, but let's look at some of the controls and let's look at some of the level design. Sonic the Hedgehog is a beast when it comes to two things, art and music. The music was probably some of the most well-known. The issue I have with the music is that it's somewhat forgettable though. If I had to sit somebody down and say, hey, what do you remember more, the music of Sonic the Hedgehog or the sound effects from Sonic the Hedgehog, I guarantee you maybe 60 or 70% of the people will say, I remember the sound effects. I remember Sonic drowning. I remember the shield popping up. I remember Sonic breathing in the massive air bubble. These are sound effects from our childhood. And unlike some games that I like Ocarina of Time, where I can hear the song and I remember that moment, the sound effects make me remember Sonic. The controls of the game are super simple too. So D-pad moves Sonic around. The original Genesis controller would have had A, B, and C. They all do the same thing. The only thing that's different is if you hold a button down, you jump a little bit higher. I use an aftermarket 6-button controller. Same thing. A, B, and C does the same thing. Okay. So let's go and look at the levels. The first part of the game takes place in the Green Hill Zone. It's at that point that you realize that the game is not nearly as fast as they're trying to make it seem. As a matter of fact, when it comes to slopes, Sonic crawls. One of the major design flaws I think they have in the game is that they said Sonic moves so fast. But the truth is, he's actually really slow in this game. And not to mention, every move that you make feels like years worth of momentum's catching up with you. If you take a simple step to the right, you're probably going to step 3 or 4 more times. And that can kill you in the later levels. But Green Hill Zone is your quintessential, I'm playing the first level of Sonic. It's always going to be peaceful, it's going to be quiet, it's going to be jovial. And for the most part, easy. The boss in this one is actually Dr. Robotnik swinging a ball and chain in his little egg ship. Next level is Marble Zone. Marble Zone has one of the most annoying enemies I think I've ever met, and that is this weird centipede snake thing with a horn. Because when you hit him, if you hit him the wrong way, he busts into a million pieces and that can kill you. The second thing is that his hitbox is almost impossible to tell, so I've died a few times from him. The lava is cool, but here's the issue. The jumps, especially in this part of the level, this is a damn nightmare. Because if you fall down, there's absolutely no rings you can get. You're screwed. There's another part where if you don't do the second jump right on time, you're screwed too. This game is a massive piece of trial and error, and I'm not okay with that. That actually bothers me a lot. So you get to fight Dr. Robotnik, and he spits fire out the butthole of his egg ship, and you dodge it. It's really easy. Next is Spring Yard Zone. This is probably the level that would make me say, okay, blast processing is a thing, because you're bouncing all the time. This whole level is nothing but springs. Nothing too abstract. The music's awesome. You get to the end, you fight Robotnik. The Labyrinth Zone. Labyrinth Zone is the worst level design I think I've ever seen, period dot. But that comes with the territory when you're talking about water levels. And in Sonic, water levels are freaking horrible. Why? Two things. A, you thought you moved slowly in land, moving slower underwater. To the point where you're having to rush to get to the next objective, and the objective is air bubbles that come out the ground so that you can breathe. But more often than not, they're either spaced too far away, or they take too long to provide you with oxygen. That and the enemies here are just cheap. Spikes that pop out, these spikes suck because they already stick out of the wall as it is, and then they jut out. It's insulting. It's also really hard to dodge. And the Labyrinth Zone boss literally consists of chasing Robotnik up and away. He's running away. You don't have to hit him at all. You can actually beat him just by letting him go. The tough part is having to vertically jump and not knowing what's going to come next. You can't just look up and be like, oh, hey, look, there's a spike I need to dodge. You will drown if you do that because the water's rising and there's no oxygen. Next level, Starlight Zone. This one's cute and pretty, but by the time I got to this level, I was so damn tired, I didn't even want to contend with it anymore. Next, Scrap Brain Zone. This is probably the coolest track in the entire game. I don't know how they managed to make that knocking sound, but it's pretty dope. So the final zone is super simple. You just show up to Robotnik's last part. You walk all the way to the right and you'll notice that he's going up and down at some pistons. Just make sure you dodge the two pistons that come down and hit the one that Robotnik's in, and that's it. You beat the game. Alright, if you don't want the ending to be spoiled, go to this time right here. Go ahead and pause it right now and go to this time. Alright, if you're still watching, then obviously you don't care about the ending. The ending sucks, because what happens is, he gets in his ship and he flies away. I spent 2 hours playing this game. Ultimately, the good ending depends on if you got all the Chaos Emeralds, which, personally for me, I didn't want to do. And even if I wanted to, it probably would have been impossible because I've never managed to keep 50 rings outside of the first two levels. The only difference is that at the end of the game, he juggles the Chaos Emeralds and says, try again. If you beat him, he gets pissed off and he stomps on the word the end. And then Sonic looks a little bit happy as all of his little furry fucking buddies.
Pro tips.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright, first pro tip. Up, down, left, right. Press A. Hold it down. Press start. That's the level select code. 2, just be patient. This is one of those games that kind of gets you stirred up by its silly stuff, but ultimately is definitely beatable. That's really all I got. It's really cut and paste. Unless you want to complete the game 100%, there's no point in getting all the Chaos Emeralds. Anyway, let's rate the game. Cart. Honestly, I can't complain about the cart. It's not that bad. The issue that I have is the box lies. That's not cool. The game is not fast. They put a lot of buzzwords in there so it caught your attention, but that's standard advertising, and I can relate with that, and I can appreciate that, but 7 out of 10. Gameplay. Alright, so the gameplay does have a little bit of flaws, and the flaws involve the movement system for Sonic, which is, I guess, the trope for it anyway, and the cheap shit that kills you. If you get hit in a Sonic game, you have a little bit of an invulnerability period. This invulnerability period allows you to regain your bearings, perhaps go and find a ring, do whatever. But if it happens on a spike, you die instantly. That's bullshit, and that's not fair. But overall, the gameplay is not that bad. Given the concept of it being a platformer, I have to give it a solid 8 out of 10. Music! The music is phenomenal. Sonic games always had phenomenal music. 9 out of 10. Art. Sonic the Hedgehog has an interesting approach to 16-bit artwork. There are overlays, there's underlays, there's things right in your face. Because of this, I have to give Sonic the Hedgehog a 9 out of 10. Fun! Have you ever played a game that was fun and not fun at the same time? That's Sonic 1. Sonic 2 is awesome, and Sonic 3 is actually my favorite. I love playing as Knuckles. But for all intents and purposes and what we're doing now, I'm going to have to give it a 7 out of 10. And that gives us an 8 out of 10. Good job, Sega. This game was a phenomenal release. It really changed everything for the Genesis. It created a mascot that had a name associated to a console, and that console sold millions of copies. Imagine this, 49.6 million consoles were sold. How many of those had Sonic the Hedgehog bundled with it? Why were people buying the Sega Genesis? It was because of Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, that's it for today's episode. I want to throw something else in there, though. Usually I do an LP, or long play, of a video. It kind of lets the subscribers see, hey, look, he's doing something, we can expect a new video. However, I've had a really bad case of technological difficulties over the course of the week. I actually played and beat the game on Monday, lost the footage on Tuesday due to audio drift, and that was a pain in the ass. I tried again with some new settings, and I beat the game again, recorded in full, and noticed right around 30-minute mark that I had a 4-second delay. So, I've changed a lot of my settings on my capture card. I'm still using my Hyperkin, and I think I've got it down to where it won't do some lag. It involved turning off a lot of features for the Elgato Game Capture HD, but I made it up to level 4. I don't have any lag, and if I do, it's so minimal it's not even noticeable. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have the time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and give me a like. Also, in the comments, tell me what you're playing and tell me what I should be playing. I got a lot of games on the wall, but eventually I'm going to run out and I need more, so go ahead and tell me. Until next time, Fortefyre out.